It's a name that still echoes with a sense of awe and tragedy, the Hindenburg. For a brief moment in time, it represented the pinnacle of human ingenuity, a colossal silver cigar sailing gracefully through the sky. But its story is forever intertwined with a fiery end, a moment frozen in history that continues to fascinate and sadden us. This isn't just a tale of disaster, it's a look back at a dream, a marvel of engineering, and the human stories within its final, ill-fated journey. The early 20th century was a time of incredible progress, a period where the world seemed to be shrinking with each new invention. The dream of taking to the skies, once confined to birds and fanciful tales, was rapidly becoming a reality. Airplanes were still in their infancy, often noisy and unreliable. But there was another vision for conquering the air: the rigid airship, the Zeppelin. Count Ferdinand von Zeppelin had pioneered these majestic airships, and by the 1930s, they were symbols of German innovation and prestige. These weren't just flying machines, they were floating palaces, offering a luxurious and stable way to travel long distances. The Hindenburg, christened the LZ-129, was the largest airship ever built. Imagine a craft over 800 feet long, longer than 3 football fields laid end to end. It was a marvel of engineering, a lightweight duralumin framework covered in fabric, filled with millions of cubic feet of highly flammable hydrogen gas. Inside, it offered passengers a level of comfort unheard of in early air travel. There were spacious dining rooms with panoramic windows, comfortable sleeping cabins, and even a lounge with a lightweight grand piano. Crossing the Atlantic by airship was a multi-day affair, but it was an experience of unparalleled luxury and smoothness. For those who could afford it, a journey on the Hindenburg was the epitome of sophistication. Imagine gliding silently above the clouds, the world unfolding beneath you at a leisurely pace. Passengers would dress in formal attire for dinner, socialize in the lounges, and gaze out at the breathtaking views. There was a romance to it, a sense of adventure and elegance that captured the imagination of people around the world. The Hindenburg became a symbol of Germany's power and technological prowess, making regular transatlantic flights between Europe and the Americas. Yet, beneath the gleaming silver skin and the luxurious interiors lay a significant danger: the hydrogen gas that gave the Hindenburg its buoyancy. Hydrogen, while incredibly efficient for lifting, is also highly flammable. The Hindenburg's designers were well aware of this risk. Helium, a non-flammable lifting gas, was preferred, but the United States, which held a near monopoly on its production, had placed an embargo on its export for military reasons. So, Germany was forced to rely on the more perilous hydrogen. This decision, born out of necessity, would ultimately seal the Hindenburg's fate. On the evening of May 3, 1937, the Hindenburg prepared for its first transatlantic flight of the season, from Frankfurt, Germany, to Lakehurst, New Jersey. A sense of routine confidence filled the air. This was, after all, the airship's 63rd flight. On board were 36 passengers and a crew of 61, each with their own story. There were families, business leaders, and tourists, all entrusting their lives to this giant of the sky. The commander, Captain Max Pruss, was a veteran airship pilot, respected and experienced. The mood during the 3-day journey was much like any other: calm, pleasant, with passengers enjoying the unique tranquility of floating above the ocean. They were blissfully unaware that for many, this serene journey would be their last. The Hindenburg arrived over the coast of America on the morning of May 6th, but its journey was far from over. A line of thunderstorms was moving over the landing field in Lakehurst, forcing Captain Pruss to delay the landing. 4 hours, the great airship circled the New Jersey coastline, a magnificent, waiting giant. Passengers, eager to disembark, pressed against the promenade windows, watching the gray, rainy landscape below. On the ground, family members and a crowd of journalists waited, including radio announcer Herbert Morrison, who was there to record what was expected to be a routine arrival. The delay, caused by the weather, only heightened the sense of anticipation. Finally, around 7 p.m., the weather cleared just enough. The Hindenburg was given clearance to land. The landing of an airship was a slow, delicate ballet. The Hindenburg maneuvered into position, dropping its mooring lines to the ground crew waiting below. The ship was just over 200 feet from the ground, hovering almost silently except for the hum of its engines and the patter of rain. Everything seemed to be proceeding as normal. The ground crew grabbed the lines, preparing to winch the massive vessel to its mooring mast. Onlookers watched, cameras clicked, and Herbert Morrison began his now famous broadcast, his voice filled with admiration for the spectacle above him. It was 7:25 p.m. In just a few seconds, the entire world would change. It started with a flicker, a small burst of flame seen near the tail of the airship. Some witnesses said they saw a faint blue glow, perhaps static electricity dancing along the massive frame. Within a heartbeat, that flicker became a raging inferno. The hydrogen inside one of the gas cells had ignited. A chain reaction ripped through the ship. A massive fireball erupted, engulfing the rear of the airship and silhouetting it against the darkening sky. The fabric skin, treated with flammable materials, burned away in an instant, revealing the skeletal frame within. Herbert Morrison's professional narration shattered into raw, human horror. It's burst into flames. It's burning, bursting into flames, and it's falling on the mooring mast. This is one of the worst catastrophes in the world. Oh, the humanity! The Hindenburg, the pride of the skies, fell from the air in just 34 seconds. As the burning skeleton of the airship settled onto the ground, chaos erupted. But amidst the horror, there were miracles. Because the disaster happened as the ship was close to the ground, many were able to survive the fall. Some, who were by the windows, jumped. Others were thrown clear by the impact. Of the 97 people on board, 62 miraculously survived. They emerged from the wreckage, burned and dazed, into a scene of utter devastation. Rescuers, including naval personnel and civilians, rushed toward the flames, pulling survivors from the wreckage. The dream of airship travel had died in a fiery heap on a field in New Jersey. The Hindenburg disaster was the first major catastrophe to be captured on film and broadcast to the world in near real time. The shocking images and the emotional radio broadcast ensured it was seared into the public consciousness. It marked the definitive end of the passenger airship era. No one would trust a hydrogen-filled vessel again. The exact cause of the ignition was never determined with absolute certainty, though the leading theory points to a spark of static electricity igniting a hydrogen leak. But what remains is the human story. A story of ambition, of a brief and glorious era of travel, and of a sudden, terrible tragedy that reminds us of the fragile line between triumph and disaster. The Silver Giant is gone, but its final, fiery journey will never be forgotten.